Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this session. Trust your day is going very well. Go for it. Okay, just waiting for everyone to join in. It's minutes past noon. Waiting for more people to join in. Welcome, Awele Elueze. Welcome, Bolande. Welcome, Bumi. Harriet. Welcome, Lydian. Welcome. Welcome, Omotala. Glad to have you all here. Welcome to the second session for today. Welcome, Bumi. Welcome, Grace. Some familiar names. How many of you were able to join the first session? That was a very insightful session, the 9 a.m. session. We are looking forward to another explosive session. Thank you for joining. Okay, let me just quickly do to reiterate some of the information we sent in the mail. Because every session we have people asking this question, so that's why I'm reiterating it. So first frequent question is, please, can we get the slide? Like I always say, for as many that chooses to share their slide with us, we'll give you access to the PDF version, and we'll send you a link with where all the presentations will be for as many facilitators or speakers that grant that permission. The second frequent question is, can we get access to the replay? So if you read the welcome mail that was sent to you, some of the additional benefits is that, one, you can get a certificate of completion for this program. So for attending this program, you can get a certificate. You can also get access to the replays of all the 30 sessions. And then if you do not hold an HRCI certification at the moment, you can get an amazing 40% discount on any of our exam preparatory course that will be holding after this, starting from September. So if you want to join that, you can get a 40% discount on the course fee for those classes. For those who hold the HRCI certification, whether APHRI, PHRI, SPHRI, or GPHR, you can also get recertification credits for this program. So each session is approved for 3 credits, depending on the session. Some are general credits, some are business credits, some are global credits. So if you have SPHRI, you should look out for the sessions with the business credits. If you have GPHR, you should look out for the sessions with the global credits. And that's the other reason why we say you should take notes for the attendance code that's shared at the end of each session, so that whether you want to claim recertification credits or you want your certificates of completion, once you are filling that the form at the end of the program, to get that, you need to impute those attendance codes. That's how we know that you were part of the session. So all those benefits I read out are at a fee. The details are in your mail. Please check. Refer to the welcome mail. Is a highly discounted fee, considering the fact that this is free to attend and the caliber of speakers we're bringing. So just for a little fee, you can get those additional benefits. So I just thought to clear that up, because I know questions will still come on that much later during the session. So now that's out of the way. Thank you all for joining. Let's speaker today, Oluwole Joseph. Oluwole is an experienced talent management practitioner with more than 10 years of exposure and experience in talent development, leadership development, culture and engagement, performance management, learning, training and development, workplace psychology, coaching and mentoring, succession planning, change management, and organizational effectiveness. Oluwole earned a Bachelor of Science in Accounting from University of Ekiti State and a master's degree in Managerial Psychology at the University of Lagos. He is an associate of Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria, CIPM, a certified professional in human resources international tHRive, and a certified senior professional in human resources international tHRive. He is an accredited management consultant and a fellow of the International Management Consultants Board, FIMCB. He is also an accredited management trainer of the Center for Management Development in Nigeria, CMD, a member of the Association for Talent Development, ATD, and a member of the Nigerian Institute of Training and Development, NITAD. He is a certified management consultant of Nigeria and also an ISO 22000 lead auditor for food and safety. In addition, Oluwole is a certified project management professional, Prince 2, and he also has a level 2 award in health and safety in the workplace from the Chartered Institute of Environmental Health, UK. Oluwole will be speaking on designing a learning strategy today. This promises to be a very insightful session. I like to call him a thought leader in the L&D space in Nigeria. So you should expect to gain a lot from this session. So with a loud applause of the coaches and a virtual standing ovation, let's give a thrive welcome to Oluwole Joseph.
Okay.
Hold on, if we don't get enough claps, we won't start the session. So you know what to do. Let's give a warm welcome to our speaker for this session, Oluwole. Okay, over to you.
I hear your clap. Thank you, Jide. And thanks to Adulon Consulting for this opportunity. You know, we've done a few things together, and then I can testify to it that it's one of the leading HR consulting firms that we have in Nigeria at the moment. You can always trust them with content. So Jide, thank you for this initiative once again. So is it fine if I display my slide? I have a few slides to share, you know.
Yes, so. Go ahead. Yes.
But before I share my slides, to some of you that are yet to see my face, this is Oluwole Joseph. You must have seen him on social media, on LinkedIn. This is my real face. So I'll be sharing my slide now. And however, I need you guys to understand that I actually look forward to your Q&A session. I believe so much in contributing, what I contribute to the Q&A session. That part is really the most important session for me. What you ask, you know, you get what you ask for. You get the result, answer for what you ask for. That's the most interesting part for me, because what you're facing, your challenges are different. So what we're going to be discussing may be generic. So if you have peculiar challenges within your organization in terms of learning and development or talent management, please feel free to bring it up during the Q&A session. I would really appreciate that. However, I have a few slides that I'm going to share with you guys. We're just going to be talking about the L&D strategy. How do you come up with one? I've done few with few organizations, FMCG, from consulting to FMCG. I've done few. I've been able to build from scratch to up. I've been able to set up learning and development departments that has been working effectively, that has been generating results. I can tell you this. I've been my department has been audited globally, and I've been awarded as a department for setting up a global standard of learning and development department. So what I'm going to share with you today is not just going to be based on theory. If you're so close to me, you will know that I'm someone that I don't believe in theory. I'm such an hands-on person. You know, I like, let's do it, not let's say it and then let's not talk about what we see online that is not working with our own departments, because there are so many materials out there that you realize that it's a bit difficult for you to adopt within your organization. But let's talk about what is it that we can do within our own sphere, within Africa, within Nigeria. When you look at our own society and then our environment, you know, when you're setting up a business strategy, your environment also contributes to some of your factors, right? Like your political environment and the rest, right? So which means that we need to talk about here, we need to talk about where we are, right? And then what tools can help us to maximize or get more results for learning and development. And I've heard people saying that, is there need for us to have a seat at the table, especially learning and development? If HR is crying for a seat at the table, is there a need for learning and development to also have a seat at the table? And then I tell people that it's not something that you cry for. You don't beg for it. Let your results show for, let your result attract, you know. There are so many meetings that are not supposed to be, but because of the result, because organizations have seen results, then they want you to be there. A learning and development practitioner is everything to the organization. Am I going to say that again? A learning and development practitioner or professional is everything to the organization, especially if you know what you're doing, right? So, which means that you are not supposed to be struggling for a seat at the table. You are actually supposed to coordinate the table, right? Yeah. You are supposed to coordinate. I have never seen a retreat that an organization want to host a retreat and then an L&D department is not the one coordinating that retreat. What is it that you want to talk about? The L&D should not be part of it. Is it your business strategy? Because I cannot deploy L&D strategy until when I have understanding of my business strategy, right? So let me just quickly move into my slides. I can talk L&D from now till. So let me move into my slides so that we'll be coordinated. And thank you once again, participants, for joining us on this session. Let me share my screen, please. So I hope you can see my screen. Jide?
Yes, we can.
All right. Okay. So designing learning and development strategy, as Jide mentioned, is what we'll be discussing. And Jide has said it before. My name is Oluwole Joseph. And then many people struggle to understand which one is my surname. My surname is actually Joseph. So you cannot guess right if I ask you to. Oluwole is my first name. So at the end of my session, I hope you will be able to have understanding of the concepts of learning and development, and then that you will be able to design one for your organization, and then that you'll be able to evaluate the effectiveness of your learning and development interventions, and then that you'll be able to apply the concepts of 70-20-10 learning strategy, right? So let's come back to the definition of learning. And before we even do that, you know, like I said before, that knowing your business strategy is the first thing you need to understand when you're trying to develop a learning and development strategy. Someone said, and I used to say also, that the power to define is the power to fulfill. I'm going to take that again. The power to define is the power to fulfill. You cannot be successful in what you don't understand, because application is in the power of application is in understanding. The concepts you don't understand, you cannot apply. For me, learning and development lies on concepts, creativity, and interventions. So if you don't have a background and understanding of the word learning and development, it's a bit difficult for you to be successful in that role. So which means that you first need to understand, what does it mean to you when you say learning and development? You know, I can tell you that organizational learning has a significant shift in the past few years, and we can all testify to that, right? From just classroom training to new channels like online and mobile. Now, the most important thing you also need to understand here is this. When you're talking about learning and development, you are not talking about training, because I've seen many people that when they are asking for learning and development manager, practitioner, head of learning and development, and then the major thing they want you to focus on is training. That's not true. Training is just an aspect of learning and development. So there are two different things here. So you can see the shift from static training content and then to more responsive and interactive content like gaming. We call it gamification. Recently, I was talking to someone about designing job role and then ensuring that we bring gamification into job role. How do we bring gamification on the job? That when you are working, you are playing game, but you are not aware. So recently, I've started discussing that with my team, that we need to start working on that concept. How does it work? Such that when you create job description for people, how do you ensure that they learn on the job through gamification, right? Because learning is not just until when you bring people into the classroom. In fact, I like what is happening at the moment globally. This has actually proven to us that classroom is not the primary center for learning and growth, right? So the changes have been in tune with changing times, and an effective learning strategy is one that delivers on both the front employees' learning outcomes and organizational goals. So, which means you must be able to balance between employees' learning outcomes and organizational goals. There should always be a link between the two. As a learning professional, you need to understand that. And the learning and development now is the process of acquiring and developing knowledge, skills, capabilities, behaviors, and attitudes through learning or developmental experiences. So there are keywords that I've mentioned there. I've mentioned developing knowledge, skills, capabilities, behaviors, and attitudes. So some of us, we think that behavior and attitude are the same. They are not. Maybe I will explain that afterwards. So through learning and developmental experiences. Now, you need to understand that this is concerned with ensuring that the organization has the knowledgeable, skilled, engaged, and committed workforce it needs. Let me tell you this. It does not make sense forcing employees and an unengaged employee into a learning session. Let me say this again. It does not make sense forcing an engaged employee into a learning session, because I've seen that happening, right? So now we have been able to define learning and development, and then let's differentiate between learning, training, education, and development. So learning is the means by which a person acquires and develops new skills, new knowledge, new capability. So you understand that we're saying that when you acquire it, learning is not I will. Learning is I am. Learning is not I will do it. Learning is I am doing it. Right? So is when a person acquires. Learning is not I will acquire it. No. When you have acquired the knowledge, the skills, capabilities, and behaviors and attitudes. So learning has happened when people can demonstrate that they know something they did not know before, and when they can do something they could not do before. So you can say that learning has happened. So that's the reason why sometimes you don't even need to struggle to evaluate some learning programs. For instance, let's take a technician who cannot operate a particular machine. and then you train that person on that machine, and then by the time you train within 10 minutes, and then you ask that person to operate the same machine, and then this person is able to operate it efficiently and effectively, then which means that learning has taken place. There is no paperwork to evaluate that anymore. And that's what we call the first reaction, right? So learning should focus on outcome, the change process, the change, right? So let's not look at learning is a continuous process that not only enhances existing capabilities, but also leads to development of the skills. You now look at training. Training involves the application of formal processes to impart knowledge and help people to acquire the skills necessary for them to perform their job satisfactorily. Then development is concerned with ensuring that a person's ability and potential are grown and realized through the provision of learning experiences or through self-directed learning, right? So we have been able to comparison between learning and training. Now, learning should be distinguished from training, which is something you first need to know before designing your learning strategy. You should be able to distinguish between learning and training. Learning is the process by which a person constructs new knowledge, like I said, acquire, and skills and capabilities, whereas training is just one of several responses an organization can undertake to promote learning. I've said that before. So let's look at, to further express myself on this, let's look at this, a model we call the cash model. And I will tell you when you're designing your learning strategy, where so many people actually missing it. When we focus on our learning strategy and learning interventions, majority of the people look at three areas. They look at knowledge, they look at skills. Your K is your knowledge. Then you look at your skills, and then you look at your attitude or behavior, right? Now, this is it. There was a time someone was trained on how to do well on the job, on time management. And then we realized that this person has been trained well, but the outcome remained the same. What we did was to change the habits of that person. And what was the habit? When you come to work, you resume to work. The first thing she wants to do is to actually go on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on social media, and attends to friends and the rest of that and all of that. So she was just wasting her time. She has been trained on how to manage time, but we have not taught her how to change habits, which will have significant impact on the job. So what we did was to reprogram our activities for the day by changing our habits. So which means that when you're considering your learning interventions, you don't just focus on your knowledge, that you want to change knowledge. You don't focus on you want to add skills or improve skills. You don't focus on you want to change attitude. You focus on knowledge. You want to improve knowledge. You want to add skills, new skills or improve skills. And then you want to change attitude. And then what about the habits? You also focus on that. Because if you focus on the three areas, habit, skills, knowledge, and attitude, and then you don't focus on habits, things may still remain the same. If you don't change the way you behave, your attitude, your daily routine, there's no point sending you for the training, right? So let's look at it now in detail. The knowledge is actually the condition of being aware of something. When you are aware of something, now let me tell you the truth. Being aware is not the same as doing. Many people know, only few actually act. That's where we're having the problem. That's the major problem now. We have access to too many information globally, but how many of the information that we have do we apply? My question right now is to the participants that are listening to me now. We are going to be discussing all this. How many of you guys will go back to your workplace, and then implement what we have discussed? So, which means you have knowledge, you only have information. But I can tell you that it is more important to do than to know. Knowing does not have any power. You can know and not do. You are still irrelevant. Accumulating information, accumulating certifications, getting so many training online does not make sense if nothing has changed within you, and if you have not changed anything around you. I'm going to say that again. It does not make sense that you have knowledge and then you have not changed things around you, and then the things that you have learned has not changed you. In fact, that's what I refer to as corporate ignorance. Are we still together? Are we still together, please? Someone is asking, kindly share 5-step process for designing an effective learning strategy for a trading service. We have not started now. You're asking. I'll come back to your question. Thank you, Elizabeth. Sorry, I just need to quickly read chats and then to know if people are actually, are we still together, guys? Good, good, yes. I can read your comments. So it does not make sense to know. It does really make sense to do. Power is in doing, not in knowing. Right? So when you're sending your people for learning programs, you should also have it in mind that we are not sending you to have information. We are sending you so much for this intervention, so much so well that this will transform you. And when you are transformed, the organization will be transformed. Now, let's look at this. When talents are being transformed, then there will be significant impact on the organization. You don't focus on organization and neglect talent. The strength of every organization is their talent, and not just their talent. The strength of every organization is the capability of their talent. It's about what the talent know and can do. Right? So when you're designing, you need to focus, have all this in mind. What about the attitude? Attitude here, we're just talking about feelings, emotions, belief. Now, the attitude here, you are sending someone for learning interventions and the person does not believe in what you're sending the person for, then the learning will fail. Or the person's values does not align with that training program or with that learning intervention. I'll give you, for instance, you are running an engagement, a pulse survey to improve the effectiveness of your organization. And then the questions you are asking your employees, they are questions that you as an organization are not implementing, things that you are not doing, which means that the employees actually do not believe in what you are saying. So when you are asking them, they are not responding to you positively because their values are not in alignment with yours as an organization. So L&D experts need to come in between that to ensure that there is an alignment between employees' values and corporate values. Right? So if attitude does not support learning, it will fail. What about skill? This is the ability to perform tasks or activities measured in time and precision. Habits, aspect of behavior that is repeatedly and consistently done without effort or conscious thought. Here, I'm actually still referring to your habits here now that you need to change. You can see that I'm saying repeatedly and consistently done without effort or conscious thoughts. So let's move on. Now, let's think about the role. When you're designing learning and development strategy, you also need to factor in the role of L&D in your organization. What is your role? What is the role of learning and development in your organization? Right? So you must be able to define that. And these are areas you're going to look at when you are designing your role, when you are defining your strategic role in your organization. The first thing, it will surprise a whole lot of people to know that L&D is also focusing on attraction and retention, right? Yeah. For every organization that I've worked in, I've been responsible for attraction and retention strategy. Even when I was working as a learning and development professional, right? Sometimes you get into an organization that is not well structured. You have to tell them what L&D is all about. If they don't know, teach them, right? Expose their ignorance. There's nothing wrong about that. Ignorance is a gift, which we need to embrace, right? Both organization and individual. Then also focus on motivation and engagement. I've mentioned attraction as a learning and development professional. When you are designing your role, let your role focus on attraction and retention. Let your role focus on motivation and engagement. Let your role focus on building an employer brand. I'll give you, for instance, concerning building an employer brand. I've worked in an organization, and then we're thinking about how do we build an employer brand, and then we're able to design something for students at the final year level. So which means that we'll have to go to campus and then deliver a program on campus, something that will make sense to final year students. Now, what about debates, competition, that your organization can come up with debates, competition where people from the outside, this is what we call outside-in strategy, when you are able to impact people from the outside inside, your consumers, right? So this is something you need to look into as a learning and development practitioner. When you are designing, please don't just focus on inside. Please, when you're designing your program, also focus on your customers too, or your consumers. How do you have impact? How do you think your program can have impact on your consumers? We've done a program where we have to bring in all our key distributors, and then we're able to talk to them about strategy that they can use to do well in selling, right? Free, just because I have seen them as part of my learning, strategy. I have put that in place. They are part of my budget when I'm designing my budget for the year. So my budget will not only capture the internal employees. So I'm also looking at the outside to say that what about my consumers? What about my customers? They are part of my success, right? So let's look at, you also consider how to create value-based culture. I was talking to someone recently, and then I said that culture is everything. If you don't have a good culture, there's nothing you want to do about learning. In a place where an organization does not believe in learning, does not believe in investing in learning and development, there's no point. In an organization whereby you see bullies everywhere from the top management team, and then you're saying that you want to, it doesn't make sense. So create a value-based culture as part of your role, your strategic role. Also think about develop people capabilities. Now you realize that I actually didn't mention develop people capabilities as the first one. So I have taken it from your onboarding process to the point where you're leaving the business. In fact, as at the point that you're leaving the business, I am also interested in your career path to say that, is there any way we can help you when you have gone? I can share your learning, your skills metrics with you, where you are now compared to where you want to be in the next 5 years, and then to let you know that this is where you are now, and we're also interested in ensuring that you get to where you're supposed to be, right? So which means that my culture does not just neglect you as an employee. I am interested in you when you are with us. I am also interested in you when you're not with us. That's a good strategy. But sometimes you can never tell. The one that has gone now can come back some other time and can be one of your hypos. So let's look at developing a vision for L&D. Most of the time when I resume into a new organization, I ensure that I write my vision statement. which can be different from where I was coming from. Because if your product and services are different, then a whole lot of learning interventions we're going to put together should be different from other organizations. But I've seen L&D professionals just coming into a new system and then doing a copy and paste templates. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. So you need to think about the culture of the business you're in, their values, their product and services, their mission and vision. L&D is going to help them in achieving that. Before you can now develop a vision for your learning and development department. So there are 4 areas you need to look at. The first one is when you're developing a vision, analyze issues. Third, establish principles. And then the fourth one is apply the strategy. So I will just quickly run over this without. Then when you're talking about develop a vision, you look at the business strategy. I've mentioned this from the beginning, that you need to have understanding of the business strategy. As a learning and development practitioner, you can only be there if you can interpret the business strategy. That is when you can have a seat at the table. You don't have a seat at the table when they are discussing organizational strategy and then you don't have a contribution or you don't have understanding, then you are not supposed to be at the table. Right? If you cannot drive the business strategy from learning perspective, then you are not supposed to represent HR at the table. So you look at stakeholder inputs. There are many stakeholders you consider when you're designing your L&D strategy. You don't do it alone. I'll give you, for instance, you're designing a program that will require line managers to release their people to attend. And then because you have not factored in stakeholder inputs, you have not called them into your designing process. And then you are just asking them to come when you want to deploy. And then they are not responding to you positively. It's basically because you have not considered your stakeholder inputs. Then consider organizational culture, which I've mentioned. Then you can now write your learning and development vision statement. You can write that because you have understanding of the business strategy. You know who are your stakeholders. You have understanding of your business culture. Then you can write your mission, your L&D vision statement. So analyze issues now. This is where you can use SWOT analysis or PISTL, whichever one you want to use. So because you want to analyze the organization. So when you are doing your analysis, there are 3 areas you need to focus on. You need to focus on the organization, you need to focus on the role, on departments, and then you need to focus on the people during your analysis. So before you now do your need analysis, then you now do prioritization, and then gap and need. I will explain this further, later. Then establish principles. What should be the principle? What, the foundation of your L&D department strategy? Alignment confirmation. How are you aligning your intervention with the business goals and objectives? Then preparation for success, establish principles. So apply strategy. You start from onboarding. This is where you start from you start your application from. From onboarding, this is where you create your, in fact, not even that. From the moment you are posting and have that, L&D should be involved. It's either L&D is looking at the content. Does it represent the business value? Does it represent the business vision and mission statement? So L&D can come in to say that, okay, can we review this content before HR or a recruiter can put it online? So, and then when you now start looking at application, you also consider onboarding, manager development, leadership development, employee development, right? Now, I need to say this, that many employees actually decide the years, the days, the months they are going to stay with your organization from their onboarding day. You need to get that straight. So learning and development process, you also need to put that in place when you are designing your learning and development strategy. Remember that we started from understanding the L&D role, L&D function, and then you have understanding of the cash model, and then you're able to differentiate between training, learning, development, and education. You have the cash model, and then we have L&D role, the strategic role of L&D in the business. Then you are now looking at, we've talked about the vision for L&D. How do you create vision for learning and development? So now we're looking at the processes. What processes do you have to put in place? This is where so many organizations actually fail, because during audits, these are areas they're going to focus on, your processes. When they are trying to audit your L&D unit or department, they want to see your processes. How do you do things? They want to look at your SOPs, right? So there are areas you want to look at, like leadership. You can read this actually, so I won't dwell so much on it. Planning and budgeting, strategic planning, operational planning, then overall system design improvement. You look at result measurement, operations management. Now, the processes you have here, by the time we share the slide with you, you can just follow through this step by step by writing what you feel will represent your organization. So this doesn't really need so much explanation. Then you have your core process, needs and performance analysis. I'll talk about later on. Then you have curriculum architecture. You have course design and development. You have course procurement. You have delivery. I'll talk about later. Then you have training evaluation. I was talking to a vendor yesterday who is supposed to come and deliver a program for us. And then I was talking to him about evaluation, that you don't just leave my people after the training. How do you ensure that they apply what they've learned? This should be part of your strategy. This should be part of your value added, services. And he agreed. So we are able to create something around that. Evaluation design, evaluation documents, you must have that. And then you should be able to report that. Now, this is it. You need to understand that not reporting learning and development activity does not make sense to your management team. They should know how your interventions are making impact or contributing to the business goals and objectives, right? So you have course language, consulting support if you need to bring in vendors, project management. I've always seen learning and development as a project. If you don't have the skill, project management skill, then you cannot operate in learning and development function. So you plan, because you are going to plan projects, you're going to plan activity, interventions. For instance, I have a learning and development calendar for the whole year. We can tell you, my team can tell you, we have a calendar with, that the team can explain to you that this is what we are doing now in January, in February, from now to December, this is what we are doing. And then we have dates, to say that these are activities, these are interventions. I will show you later on what you need to look at when you are designing your calendar. Then you also have to focus on support. Maybe you have to use technology to drive your intervention. What about training administration? When you're looking at your training administration, you're looking at facilities, scheduling people for training, and then we ensure that if you want to schedule people for training, at least you give them minimum of 2 weeks notice, right? Then training record keeping, you have to do that because they can just come over anytime to come and audit you. Then what about financial tracking? We do that, especially if you are someone that wants to get reimbursement from ITF. You have to focus on financial tracking. How much are we spending on refreshment, on course fee, on that and this and this and that. Then staffing, recruitment and selection, you have to support them there, like I mentioned initially. Then you have to support in training and development. You have to support in performance management. It depends on the structure of the organization. To some organizations, learning and development is responsible for performance management. And for every organization that I've worked, I've always been responsible for performance management, because this is just a critical area now. In fact, we are not even looking at it as performance management anymore. It's performance improvement. Career management, L&D is responsible. You have to support there. And then even compensation, there's a link between myself, my department, and compensation, comp and bend department, you know. So sometimes I just walk up to them to say that we need to review our comp and bend strategy. I want a total reward strategy. And then I was able to explain to them that I want to bring in employee engagement strategy into their compensation and benefit strategy. You know, so much so well that when you are sharing with and when you're giving an offer to someone, you can see non-financials that will be beneficiary to you, that you will love. There are interventions that you see there that can make you make a decision to say that, oh, wow, I look forward to working with these guys. Then what about training information management? You look at that, training, marketing, and communication. See, it's important we understand this part too, that a learning and development function is a marketing function. You need to learn how to sell your interventions. You call for a program and then you only see few people attending. It's because you have not sold that program well. If you sell it well, then you have maximum numbers of people that you're expecting at the event, especially if your past event has weight and impact on the employees. So they will definitely look forward to having another session with your learning and development. Now, the question is, can employees say that we truly trust our learning and development function? If that credibility is not there, no matter what you design, it will fail, right? Because they cannot trust you. When you invite vendors, you invite people that are not qualified just because of what you can get, you know, that's not working anymore. So I'll move forward to learning and development priorities. Don't forget, I have discussed the processes. I have discussed the strategic role of L&D. I have talked about, now I want to talk about the priorities. Now, needs to increase productivity. If we are talking about what should L&D be focusing on, now we're talking about needs to increase productivity, reduce costs, and still provide superior service. Now, I ensure that when I have my training budgets, I ensure that I don't spend not less than 50% of my budgets, because this is part of what I'm going to present to board at the end of the year, to say that the learning and development has been able to save you this cost, and we are also able to deliver quality service and superior service. So cutting costs for me is not supposed to come from the management team. No. Especially, you know, during this pandemic, a whole lot of organizations are now trying to put a stop on their training budget. To every organization that I've worked, even during recession, they don't stop my budget. They don't come near my budget. Because number one, we have been able to sell L&D to them as a strategic role to improve organizational capabilities. And then number two, we have proven to them that is a strategic role within the business. And then we have also proven to them that we are able to manage resources so well. So there are interventions that we introduce that, you know, we use that intervention to save cost for the business. And then we can justify that at the end of the year, right? With impact. You also look at aligning operations, practices, and systems across different business units. So whatever you are designing, ensure that you are in alignment with the operation and then the practices and systems across different business units, right? And also aligning L&D with business goals and objectives. I've talked about that. That should be your priority. Attracting, engaging, and retaining employees with critical skills and competencies. I've talked about that. And then I've actually spoken about budgets. It is pretty, see, I have never seen all the places that I've worked that you will tell me that my L&D budget is within HR budget. That's not true. Let me know my own budget. Give me my budget. I'm in charge of my budget, and then I can tell you, because and then you don't design budget without showing them what you want to do for the year. And then you don't do need analysis without telling them that this is how we're able to arrive at what we want to do for the year. Right? You should be able to convince them by saying that this is the reason why we're spending this money. Right? So let's now discuss the L&D framework. Don't forget, we've talked about the L&D vision, L&D. We started by defining learning and development function. we've talked about the cash model, we've talked about the strategic role of learning and development. Then we've talked about creating vision for your learning and development and the 4 areas you can look at. Now we've talked about the processes that you need to look at. And then I told you that the processes are areas that they want to look at when they are auditing your learning and development function. So, and then the processes are actually areas that actually define your learning and development strategy. If you're going to fail, if your learning and development strategy is going to fail, it will be based on your processes that you have put in place and the system you have put in place. Especially if you're an organization that is trying to create a learning culture, then you have to focus on the processes that you can put in place and the system you can put in place to ensure that you have a robust learning culture. And then we'll talk about the priorities, 5 areas, you know. So let's look at the framework. Then after this framework, I'll look into the L&D strategy itself and how you can come up with one. And then I'll attend to a question that was asked. So I hope I'm still within time. Okay, good. So this is your learning and development framework. This framework was designed by McKinsey. Designed by McKinsey. They can only tell you that they can only show you a framework, but adaptability is the power behind every framework. How do you adopt this framework into your system? Let me tell you the truth. There are culture, environmental culture, there are organizational culture, system that certain framework will never succeed. Right? So adaptability is the power behind framework. Anybody can share framework with you. Your understanding about the framework and then how you're able to apply that framework into your own environment, workplace, is the power that generates impact and results. So let's look at the first thing, business units and HR co-own academy. That's if you have an academy. So your business unit and HR will want to do that, right? And here we're actually mentioning, we're looking at the 9, we call it the 9 framework. So I'll start from alignment with business strategy. Alignment with business strategy. One of an L&D executive primary task is to develop and shape a learning strategy based on the company's business and talent strategies. Now, consider 2 points here: business strategy and talent strategy. Okay, maybe because I'm the one handling both talent management and development. So I've been able to define my talent strategy, you know, so which means that I can now align my developmental intervention with my talent strategy. There must be a link between the two. So the learning strategy seeks to support professional development and build capabilities across the company on time and in a cost-effective manner. In addition to this, I can tell you that the learning strategy can enhance the company culture, which I have said initially, and encourage employees to live the company's values. Right? So let's now consider co-ownership between business units and L&D. With new tools and technologies constantly emerging, you can tell that companies must become more agile, and then they must be ready to adapt their business processes and practices. So L&D function must likewise be prepared to rapidly launch capability building programs. During pandemic, I was talking to a few friends and I said to them that this is the moment where organizations actually need to focus on learning and development. Right? Yeah, it's either you learn how to build the emotion of your people so much so well that they can deliver on your goals. But the first thing first is to focus on the people and then to know what they need during this period And then when you are changing, let me just chip in this. When organization is changing their business strategy during the pandemic, learning and development should also change their strategy because they need to align with the priorities of the business, right? So, third, assessment of capability gaps and estimated value. After companies identify the business priorities, they must verify that their employees can deliver on them. So we're talking about the tasks that may become difficult than it sounds. Some companies make no effort to assess employee capabilities, while others do so only on a high level. For instance, we have a skills matrix that we have designed to say that on this particular role, we have been able to identify critical skills that can help an employee to be successful on a particular role. So the moment you are entering into the business, then we conduct that skills matrix to know where you are, and then to be able to let you know that this is where you are, and then in the next 1 year, 2 years, this is where we want you to be. And you can only get there by acquiring these skills, and then we're able to align. And we'll now talk about how do you acquire those skills. Some is going to be personal learning, some will be support from organization, right? And then we'll discuss other interventions later that can enhance that. So we'll also look at design of learning journeys, which is critical. So L&D actually moving away from stand-alone program by designing learning journeys, continuous learning opportunities that take over a period of time and include L&D interventions such as field work, pre and post classroom digital learning. And then we also have something we call social learning. I'll discuss later. And we have on the job coaching. So these are you need to understand your part. What are your learning journey? What are your learning journey? What do you have for the employees, like coaching and mentoring, and then other short workshops? I was talking to someone in a classroom, a facility. I was talking to participants recently, and I said to them that research has proven to us that only 5% of participants, only 5% of the total participants in a class will actually implement what they have learned in classroom. So which tells me that it is not really important putting them in classroom. We have other learning interventions we can consider that will generate more impact than putting them in classroom, which we need to look at. So let's also look at the fifth one, execution and scale up. This is actually talking about the establishment of L&D agenda, which consists of a number of strategic initiatives. Let me tell you this. I've said it before, that L&D is actually being creative is based on concepts, creativity, and initiatives. I'll say it again. L&D is driven by concepts, processes, creativity, and initiatives. If you can think well, vertical thinking here, then you'll be able to move your L&D forward through your vertical and horizontal thinking pattern. So we're not looking at capability. They must be able to support capability building and align with business goals, such as helping leaders develop high-performing teams or roll out safety training if it is required for your organization. At the moment, we are focusing on our leaders, because this moment we realize that they need to drive the employees more, and they need that skills to be able to drive and motivate them. So let's consider measurements of impact on business performance. So we're now saying that during this measurement and impact on business performance, a learning strategies execution and impact should be measured using skill performance indicators. You cannot measure without defining KPIs. You first must have defined your KPIs, and then the first indicator looks at business success. So there was a time we're doing appraisal I was having a calibration session with a department, a quality assurance department. And then during that calibration, and then I realized that the HOD has given all the people, he has rated them well. And during that time, we're having product defects in the market, not my present organization. So I asked him, I said, outcome, business outcome is such a KPI that you can use to measure a department. If we're having product defects so much out there, then how come you're telling me that your people are doing well and they are responsible for product quality? And then he surrendered to me. And that is one of the performance errors when you're doing performance appraisal, when you're considering performance appraisal errors. Maybe he's doing it basically because he felt, because I like my team, because they did well last year, and then you feel they are doing well this year, So you need to look at KPIs, define KPIs, and then how closely align all and also closely align all L&D initiatives and investments with business priorities. The second KPI you want to look at is learning excellence. Don't forget, the first KPI you're looking at is business excellence, and that was the reason why I gave you that illustration. Business excellence. If the business is not doing well, then you cannot tell me that the guys are working well. So the second one you want to look at is the learning excellence, right? As a KPI. Whether learning interventions change people, you want to know. Not just change people, has it changed people's behavior? Right? Not just change people, changing people's behavior and performance. Last one is operational excellence. Don't forget, I mentioned business excellence as KPI, learning excellence as KPI, and then I mentioned operational excellence as KPI. So this KPI measures how well investment and resources in the corporate academy are used, basically. So let's now talk about integration of L&D interventions into HR processes. Integration. Just as L&D corporate learning activities need to be aligned with the business, they should also be integral parts of the HR agenda or the people agenda. L&D has an important role to play in recruitment, like I said initially. We have an important role to play in onboarding. We have an important role to play in performance management. We have an important role to play in promotion. Recently, I redefined our promotion policy, right? Yeah, and it was in alignment with L&D interventions. So L&D also need to focus on the workforce. It is wrong when L&D does not have understanding of the people agenda of your organization. It's totally wrong that you don't have understanding of your workforce analysis. You don't understand the number of people in the business. You don't understand the number of people on PIPs. I mean, performance improvements. You don't understand the number of people there. You don't understand the business direction, like I said initially. It's something wrong. And then you don't understand the succession planning strategy. So how do you make contribution? How do you grow the people? The next move, you don't know what is required for A candidate to become, or B candidate to become A candidate. What is required? You don't understand because you have not been part of the process. So it is critical that L&D gets involved in all this. And this will help your learning strategy interventions. Also, enabling of the 70-20-10 learning framework. You must have heard about this. I'm going to define this in detail later. So L&D leaders must design and implement interventions that support informal learning, which includes coaching and mentoring, on-the-job instruction, right? So when I say on-the-job instruction, sometimes I just put a process, a manual, very close to where someone is working that tells you about your job instruction, especially when you're working on a particular project. So we're saying that this is when you look at this, and we're not just writing it, we're using pictorials to depict what you need to do. So that's on the job instruction. So what about leadership shadowing? Where you need someone to work with someone. Okay, for instance, someone who is willing to move into another department. So I have given someone such an opportunity to say that every Friday, you don't work in your department, you work with another department because that's your next move. So every Friday, you stay with the head of that department to learn for 3 hours, and then you come back to your department. So these are interesting things that can make people stay on the job. See, when people are tired of being too long on a role in your organization, and then you are not doing something to motivate them, then what you're saying is you are not ready to keep them. They will go outside and do something that will make them happy. So it is better, you see, gone are the days when you design for people. You don't do that now. You allow people tell you what they want, and then you design what they want in alignment with the organizational values and priorities, right? Which is based on learning. So I've discussed that. So you look at social technologies to also grow people in connecting experts and creating and sharing knowledge. So there's a platform we created which is for learning and development, for knowledge sharing platform. I've worked in an organization where we have Facebook to come and create something like a Facebook app for us. So what we use it to do is to ensure that people come on that platform to share knowledge. So someone can just come and say that I'm going through this on my job. Please, do someone have a template, you know, in another country, or do you have this that I can use to quickly close this gap? You know, and that has been interesting. And on that same platform, I run a program which I call Monday Motivation. Every Monday, I post on leadership to the point that even our global CEO will make comments to my posts. So people actually look forward to that Monday Motivation from me on that platform. So it's about you creating an environment of learning for people where they can learn, you know, enjoy learning, where they can interact. And that's what we actually call creating a learning culture, right? Where people can easily share knowledge and information with each other. Also look at the systems and learning technology application. We've talked about that. So, and I can assure you that the most significant enablers for just-in-time learning are technology platforms and applications. I'll give you, for instance, for example, which include next generation learning management system, visual classrooms, what we are doing now, right? So like mobile learning apps is working, to some organization it's working. I've completed about 3 courses this week on my mobile app from our Coca-Cola University. So which means that I actually don't need to travel to the US to be at the Coca-Cola University to run a program. I've completed 3 programs within this week, just on my mobile app. So you can see that things are actually changing. But the truth is, if you are not ready to change, you are ready to die. I mean, if the business is not ready to change, the business is ready to die. So you can also compare embedded performance support system, pulling software, learning videos. Now we have a platform we're trying to negotiate at the moment where we can go into YouTube and then pull out a particular video that is relevant to us on YouTube, and then we'll put it on our own platform. We are negotiating for that already. You know, learning assessment and measurement platforms. So learning assessment and measurement platform, we have a 6-month assessment template where your line manager will use to measure you after you have done a particular program. We also have something we call MOOC, which is massive open online courses. Massive open online courses. See, learning and development professionals, you can go, I've been negotiating with EDS on how we can partner with them, how my organization can partner with them, you know, which means that I can partner with them by asking them that, okay, I have this content, how do we put this content on your on your platform? Or you have this these courses, how do we ensure that if I give you 30 participants and then you're going to give us discounts? And then that's actually also going to create to help our brand, to say that my organization is actually partnering with someone like Coursera, or let's say LinkedIn, right? So you need to look and think outside the box. There's something we also call the small private online courses. Let's just name the few so I can move on from here. So now let's talk about the learning strategy in business itself. Jide, I hope we're still together.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So can I just quickly look into what people are saying and read their charts, and then maybe a question? And okay, I've seen. Give practical example of learning interventions and be applied to a sales system. Elizabeth, ask me all your questions when I am done. I like that. So I want to read comments. Okay, someone said corporate. Okay. Yes, corporate ignorance. Not just corporate ignorance, Grace. There's something we call nuisance value, which I'm going to add to that of corporate ignorance. Nuisance value. I won't be able to explain that. Power is in doing, not in knowing. Yeah, thank you, Amaumi. So I can read from people's comments. So which means that, so when you are measuring, when you are trying to, as a learning and development professional or practitioner, when you are measuring your learning impact, you start from the classroom. So this can tell me from the first reaction now in class says that a few people are actually following through their learning by repeating what I am saying. And what you repeat, you don't forget easily, right? So you need to pay attention to how people feel in class, right? That's where you are taking your first impact, the first reaction from. I will explain that later. So I actually give kudos to those guys that actually writing back to me about what I've said. So let's keep it up and still stay up. Stay with me. So learning and development strategy in business. How do we do that? I've explained your processes. I've explained priorities, what you need to focus on. I've explained aligning with the business objectives, and the rest. Competent learning skill. You look at that, service mindset and skill, technology and process, personal and team development, efficient funding skill. These are areas that I've talked about. Now, competent learning skills, adapt it to your needs and capture your audience's attention. Remember I said, whatever you are designing must be, whatever model you're using, you must ensure you're able to adapt it to your business environment. Then service mindset and skill, adapt it to your needs and capture your audience attention. Technology and process, personal and team development, efficient funding skills. All of this, you have to be able to adapt it to your needs and capture your audience attention. There was something I did. When I say capture your audience attention, I realized that most people, I've worked in an organization where most people actually don't have understanding about corporate email etiquette. So what I did was not to bring people to the classroom. So we started with bullet points. We have screen almost every pathway of the organization. So what we did was to put up a PowerPoint slide and convert it to video. And then it's showing how you respond to mail, how you send mail, the salutation and the rest. And people were able to learn from that because we're able to capture the audience attention, by using the video and then other images to capture the attention. Let's look at steps to, I think, Elizabeth, you asked about the steps to formulating your L&D strategy. And then while I'm doing this, then you'll be writing what you have to write. If I'm able to share this slide with you, then I've put a point where you can put your text. The first thing you need to do is define the learning and development vision and goals. If you started with us from the beginning, you will realize I've talked about this. Now, the first step is define your learning and development vision and goal. It is wrong for you to say to be in a place where you have not defined. Let me put it that way. What you cannot see, there is not going to be a force that can put you there. Like people used to say that you create a vision, you create a dream, and then you follow your dream. You don't run after your dream. It is wrong to tell people to run after their dream. Don't pursue your dream. It is a very wrong statement when you say you have a learning and development vision, and then we're asking you to run after that vision or pursue your dream. It's a very wrong statement. You don't do that. All you need to do is you reposition yourself. When you do it, when you have it written down, and then you position yourself for it, then it will happen. So you will now realize that creating an L&D strategy is work. It's not something that you just come and say you resume to work and then the next year you say that, okay, it's training, this is our training calendar. It's not about training calendar, right? It's not about training calendar. It's about what you can do to drive the business success, not just the training. So what vision do you have? Is your vision in alignment with the organizational vision and mission? So what are your goals as learning and development function? Define that, write it down. Then define curriculum. So when I say define curriculum, I'm not saying that define training programs. Define interventions that will help you achieve your vision and goals. Now, let me give you for instance, I've been in an organization where my corporate goal was to build a learning culture within the first year of the business. That was my corporate goal, to build a learning culture within the first year of the business. And then I've been in an organization, the same organization, I wrote a statement that to become the #1 learning and development function in our business globally, to be the #1 L&D function, the best L&D function in our business globally. And I have people that are in this session now that we work together. They can testify to it. I've gotten several awards when it comes to that globally, in our business globally, to say that you have created a global L&D function that is running so well and generating results. So that is how you write your mission and goals, right? What you don't see, you only pursue what you see, and then you are positioned for what you see, right? So define your curriculum, define learning and development organization and process to deliver your strategy. Don't forget, I have talked about processes and how you can put processes in place. And processes actually is the brain behind the success of your learning intervention. So define your learning and development and organizational process to deliver your strategy. Now, you don't define process first. You define your strategy first to say that, okay, what process will help us achieve or get to where we're going? After you have defined your learning and development vision and goal. So you're now defining your processes to ensure that you achieve your goals. If my goal is to develop or design a learning and development culture for the business, then my processes should be something around that part that will help me to achieve that. To also establish solutions for curriculum. When I say solutions, you don't just design something. You design solution. You don't just, you see, when you are designing, you have the solution in mind, right? Is the solution that the management team is interested in. To say that we want to increase by Q1, this program would have increased our sales revenue by 20%. So that means I am establishing solutions for full curriculum, right? And then measure success and update curriculum. We'll see discuss about measuring success. Identify priorities. What are your L&D priorities? This is how I do mine. We do first quarter priorities, second quarter priorities, third quarter priorities, and then fourth quarter priorities. What are we focusing on? The first quarter. So the only shift during this period was when the pandemic happened. And then I called my team that we need to revamp, and then we quickly revamp, right? So you need to have priorities. And then when you define your priorities, you need to look at your sponsors or vendors. I'll give you, for instance, I designed a program which we call tHRive to tHRive, which I asked my MD to be the first facilitator. And it's as a result of our goal, which if we say we want to build a learning culture, the learning culture we should gain support from the management is from top down, right? Not from bottom up. So I need the commitment of the management team. I need the commitment of my MD. So if my MD can come down to come and train assistant managers, you know, that's really impressive, right? So that's what we're talking about. So have your priorities set in place. Go Q1, what do you want to achieve? Q2, what do you want to achieve? You know, and then what support do you need? Who are the support? Who are the people you need? The vendors you need to achieve what and what, right? The tools and resources to achieve what and what. And don't forget that we have also talked about your budget, which is part of your strategic tools. And then analyze the gap. You have done that, and then inventorize all existing learning and development and activity, right? So elements of the L&D strategy: organization's learning and development philosophy. What is your philosophy? Nobody grows beyond their philosophy. You do things because of who you are, and who you are is defined by your philosophy. So your L&D activities, when I see your learning and development activities, this actually tells me the philosophy, the belief, what you believe in as a learning function. I've been setting up a team now. I'm working with a particular team on a particular project nationwide. I call them the L&D gang. Part of what the L&D gang will be doing is to give support to learning organizations, to say that quarterly, can we come into your learning and development unit to audit your function, and then to tell you gaps and what you need to do to close your gap for free. This is going to be part of what I have designed, you know, for the rest of the year, that the learning and development gang will look into. Right? So, which means that if you don't have a philosophy in place and then we come into your organization to see what you are doing, we can easily tell that is either you don't have a philosophy in place or you have the wrong one in place. And then we can help you, sit you down to say, okay, this is what and what you need to do. We want to start auditing L&D function for free, at no cost. And if you're interested in joining this team, please do let me know after this session. You know, it's just my contribution to organizations to say that if you have to build a learning culture in Africa, we must start from somewhere and we must give each other support. So I'm ready to do that. Then you also look at the objective of the learning and development strategy. What are your objectives? What are your objectives? So when you see an organization at the beginning of the year or the end of the year, they are saying that we are writing our business objective, what we want to achieve next year. The moment an organization is thinking about what we want to achieve next year, the learning and development function should be thinking about how do I support the business to achieve this next year. And that's the reason why you need a seat at the table. Because whatever you don't understand, you cannot explain or you cannot express. If I am not at the table, how do I define or how do I support the business objective? I'll give you, for instance, when I've worked with HR directors so much so well that when they are going for management team, it can be difficult for them to go alone without asking me to come along, even if it's not talent management related issues, because they understand that L&D can help them interpret what the business is saying. You know, so, and then we can easily align our people agenda with the business agenda. Is that fine? And then you look at prioritization of learning and development strategy. You not prioritize. Sometimes this is what I do. At the beginning of the year, maybe I have a whole lot of interventions. Then I now try to prioritize. Which one will give me the best result out of this? There are some that will just knock out. They are good interventions, but they are not good for now. So I'll knock them out because I need to prioritize and I need to be focused. And then resources needed for learning and development, such as facilities, budgets, I've mentioned all that. External assistance, I've mentioned all that. So these are elements you consider. Learning and development criteria for success, define it. When you achieve success in your L&D function, how do you know? You don't know until you have defined, right? Then lastly, criteria for measure and evaluate the effectiveness of learning and development strategy. It is, we can be so quick to defining L&D strategy, but we are not so quick to evaluating L&D strategy. or the outcomes of our L&D strategy. This is where most people are failing. And the moment you are unable to evaluate the outcome of your L&D interventions, then you cannot sell at the end of the year to the management team to say that this has been our impact. Right? So that's why sometimes you do survey, you don't pulse, right? There's a way you convert, there's a document we use to convert knowledge that you have transferred on the job. You monitor people that you have trained or that you are coaching, you monitor their improvement, and then you convert it into Naira. And the moment you convert that into Naira, then you can easily tell management to say that, see, this guy was unable to do this before. He can spend number of times achieving this before. But because we have trained him and we have done a coaching and mentoring for him, now he has been able to reduce downtime to this. So which means that you are converting the time into Naira, and then you are selling that to the management team during your evaluation. It's part of your strategy. So let's look at the L&D strategy circle. I'm just as a learning and development practitioner, I know what to repeat in my session so that you can get me so well. Right? There are things you will see here that you must have come across that I've discussed in the past. It's a strategy. So now align with business. Let your interventions be in alignment with the business goals and objectives and priorities. Then integrate learning with HR and other business processes. Create a learning culture. Create a learning culture. Part of what we do when we're trying to create a learning culture was to ensure that we improve team support and effectiveness. We have a platform where people can share knowledge easily. We are running a learning knowledge sharing sessions every department, and we try to track them from L&D function. So where I've worked before, I can just walk into your L&D, your knowledge sharing session unannounced. The moment I walked in, then your HOD will know that either you're in trouble or I applaud you. Then provide appropriate learning options. See, don't give people something that is boring. That's the reason why I tell people that when you're designing for people, bring them into your design in the first place. Get to know what is it they're interested in and how do they want to learn. If I'm calling you for this, I want you to improve on this. So what do you think will help you to achieve this? And then the guy can tell me that, okay, if you send me for a program or if you give me so person to be my coach, and then I will ask, okay, are you sure that if I give you Mr. So, you are comfortable with that person? He will say yes. So can we now list what you need to learn within the first quarter? I'm trying to bring him into the learning design. So which means that I am not designing for him. We are co-creator, right? This should be part of your strategy. Then manage learning effectively. Support application of skills in the workplace. See, this is very critical. Support application of skills in the workplace. To some organization, you send your people for training, but you have not given them platform to apply what they learn. It's a waste of money, resources, and time. Your culture does not give them room to express what they know. That's corporate ignorance. Nuisance value. You know, that they know and you are not ready to show what they know. Right? So give them platform to express what. I'll give you, for instance, someone who is learning graphic design on his own, who just have passion for graphic design. If I really want to do it as your head of learning, what I'll do is, okay, I'll say, okay, you know what? I see that you have passion in graphics. Say yes. But you are an accountant. I say, I just have passion. Okay, what if I give you 1 hour every Friday to stay with marketing, the guy who is designing marketing brochure, and then you stay with the guy, you help him to design for 1 hour. How do you think the guy will feel? I'm doing all that because I need to retain him and I want him to be happy. Right? I don't want to lose him in his role, and then I need to help him to fulfill his personal dream. You don't just train people to be useful to your organization alone. You train them to also be useful to themselves. This should be part of your strategy. So I won't be able to, alignment of L&D strategy, I won't be able to talk through all this. You know, so you have alignment of L&D strategy. How do you align with organizational culture, employee engagements? You know, so if you want to align your L&D strategy, you look at the HR strategy, employee engagements, talent management, talent acquisition, performance management, total compensation, HR operations and infrastructure, and then the budget. So you can read that on your own. So the enable 70-20-10 strategy. This is what I said I'm going to discuss in details. So now in my whole organization, we are not using 70-20-10 strategy. You can see it here. We are using 50-40-10 strategy. So what they are saying is the 70% is experiential learning. That's when you experiential, the 20% is social learning. Social learning is something like when you go to Facebook, LinkedIn to read articles, or when you are in a conversation, a deep learning conversation on LinkedIn. That's part of your 20%. So that's the reason why I get so pissed off when an organization is saying that I don't want my people to go on LinkedIn. It's not just them finding job on LinkedIn. They also learn there and in other platforms, especially if they are matured professionals. And then the other 10% is actually your classroom training, education, learning from courses. So the 20% here is an exposure. I can ask you to go to one of our branches in, let's say, Kenya, and then to go and have a secondment program with someone. Or you do knowledge sharing session as part of your 20%. And then, or you do subject matter network. We have in our organization, I set up a subject matter networks where we meet every quarter. And then we discuss trends, challenges within the business, and then how we can improve those challenges. So all subject matter experts network experts will come together to do that. And then there was a time too that I introduced book review. So for instance, you realize that we have about 5 people within your organization, within your team, that are struggling with managing their time. You may not really send them for a training program. You can look for a short book on time management, and you ask them to go and review. That out of the 4 of you guys, I want you to review this book and come back and share with the whole team. And then the best out of you guys will be awarded. Organizations, smart organizations are now linking reward and recognition with their learning interventions. Let me say that again. Smart organizations, they are now linking their reward and recognition strategy with their learning interventions. So which means that I can put a reward on your learning interventions just because I expect impact. I'll give you, for instance, I've been in an organization before now that they don't even do training. And then when people attend training, you just see few people. And then I said to them, I said, you know what? Going forward, when we invite people for training, we'll give them refreshments, good meal. I mean, good meal, you know, and then we give them tea break, we serve them good meal. And then after that, we also give them certificates, customized certificate from the business, where the HR director and head of talent will have to sign. And then by the time we start doing all that, and then you see people turning up so well for the program. And then I'm now doing something to say that, okay, if you're able to apply what you have learned, then you can get recognized during our reward and recognition session, where we'll call you to say that he learned this course and he was able to apply it on the job. And this is the result we have gotten so far because he has understanding of the learning. He has implemented. Then coaching and mentoring, and then feedback. You know, some people say they do feedback mid-year and end of the year. That was then. Now you do feedback instantly. The moment you see something wrong, you correct it immediately. Right? And then games and movies. There was a game last year that I used for learning. Is it Jumanji or something? I've seen that movie, and then I so much love that movie. And then I call for our senior managers, and then I put them in the classroom, and then I was able to show them that movie. You can see movies that will help team building, that will help collaboration. Movies So bring them to the classroom and then put them there and then do a popcorn session for them. You know, they are gisting, they are seeing movie, but they are learning. So you can make learning fun, right? I've done all that, which can be very interesting. I've done debates where I bring senior managers up for leadership discussion. And then I will be asking them tough questions. And then my audiences, employees too, will be asking questions, right? So these are initiatives that you can bring on board. And then to organizations, some organizations are also supporting membership, professional associations, and they pay for your fee. Then the 70% is actually experience learning on the job, which I mentioned before. You can do placement, secondment, you can do job rotation, especially if you realize that someone is actually positioned to be an IPOS. When you're considering your succession planning, you can implement all these secondment, job rotation, and then maybe someone is not doing well on the job too. You can do secondment or job rotation where you have to place him with someone that is very good on the job. And then you can also do special assignments or projects so that people can learn from it. Then on the job, you can do job shadowing where you have to stay with someone to see how they do it, you know. I'll be able to talk through from performance gap to learning and development, learning need analysis. This is how you do your learning need analysis. I'm able to talk you through that. So identifying learning needs. How do you now identify your learning needs? So the first tool you can use is your performance evaluation. When you are doing your performance evaluation, you can identify the gaps, and then L&D can now look at consider this as priority and how they can improve it. You can look at job description. Job description is also a tool to conduct your learning needs. Then HRP or talent analysis approach. This is where you have discussion around your talents, your talent review session. You can use observation and questionnaires. You can also use assessment of capabilities. You can also use business leaders meeting. You can also use employee engagement survey as a tool to identify learning needs. Also, competency standards. So I know some of you have come across the 5 phases of Hardy model, where you analyze, design, develop, implement, and then evaluate. I won't stay too long. So now let me just mention this. Okay. When you are using this Hardy model, when you do your analysis, don't just move from analysis to design. That's the mistake majority of the people are making. When you do your analysis, ensure that you do analysis and then you evaluate before you move to the next step. So when you do your design, don't move to the next step until you have evaluated your design. When you do your development, don't move until you have evaluated. You evaluate every step before moving to the next step. So training, evaluating effectiveness of your learning is part of your strategy. So this is the whole get practice model. This is hard. There's a new way now. So actually, the reaction is the levels. This level measures how favorably the trainees are reacting to learning. Then the learning, this level measures what the trainees learn. Behavior measures how much the trainee has influenced, impacted the behaviors of the participants. Then the results, this level measures the impact the training had on business, right? So the new model is now saying that the level 1 reaction, before you do that, you do monitor. The level 1 reaction is engagement. Engagement, maybe for instance, maybe it's a training program. How are people really engaged? You know, have you entered into a classroom and then you see people playing with their phones and then just gisting with each other without listening to the facilitator? So that's the first reaction. You can tell by what you see. How relevant is the content to the people? You can tell. And then that will determine the customer satisfaction. And to some of us that I've observed this because I'm a psychologist, to some of us that when you want to do your training evaluation, that is the moment you are giving your participant food to eat. Do you know that that meal can influence them to write something good? Because you have put them in a state to be happy, especially when that food is something else. So because of the food, they will tell you that the training content is good, whereas the training content is nothing. So I tell my people, you don't give them food when they are doing evaluation. No, because the food can influence them. to write something that is not true, right? So you look at your level 2 learning, then where you now consider all this knowledge. As knowledge improves skills, attitude, confidence in people, and then commitment. Then you now look at your level 3, which is behavior. Has anything changed? Do you need to reinforce your strategy? Do you need to reward? I've talked about this. Do you need to reward them for changes in behavior? Do you need to encourage them for changes in behavior? If they are yet to change, you need to do a reinforcement program, or do you need to monitor them? So when you are looking at behavior, the 4 things you need to consider here, very critical. When they do well, when behavior has changed, then reward. You know, in reward and recognition, we will reward and then you also punish, right? They go hand in hand. You don't separate the both of them. If I can reward you, I should be able to punish you. So you now look at your final level, level 4 results. There are indicators you're looking for and then desired outcomes. Have you been able to define them before you implement? You will now come to consider what you have defined plus what the outcome looks like. So your key stakeholders are part of your strategy. I mean, key part of your strategy. For instance, head of HR or HR director. If you have anything good and your HR director is not ready to support, do you think you'll be successful? You will not. Executive team, yeah, like I said, I mentioned that I've used my MD as a champion before, just because I need to drive a particular project. Then L&D or HR team, management team, employees, you put all that in place. So I think we are at the question and answer session now. Gidi, are you there?
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that loaded presentation. It was an awesome session. I knew you were going to raise the bar higher again. I've been getting some comments here. I don't think it's in the general chat, but let me read some. So Stella says, awesome session so far. Well done. Aminat says, we just have to get these slides. This is a class on L&D. Oluwole nailed this. It really doesn't get better. Thank you, Adulam. So I'm sure we'll still get more reactions. So let's just quickly appreciate the speaker for today, Oluwole, for that end-to-end. It's like a crash MBA course on L&D. That was great. Thank you for sharing from your wealth of experience, and very practical as well. That's the interesting part of it. And like you said, is in the doing. The power is in the doing. Yeah. So thank you very much. I know you might have taken more of the time that that you were giving, but it was all worth it. I'm sure people even want you to go maybe past 2, but let's within that time so that we won't encroach on the time for the other session. Yeah. So quickly, let's take some questions. Okay, you already have 2 questions already from Elizabeth, so maybe we go through that first.
I'll go through that. So, kindly share 5-step processes. I've shared the processes for designing an effective learning strategy. I've talked about that processes. She has this question before we got into that part, so which I've spoken on that. Give practical examples of learning intervention and that can be applied to a sales team. Practical examples of learning interventions that can be applied to a sales team. Now, the first thing is, what is your sales team trying to achieve? Where are they now? Where do they want to be? What is their targets now? What are they, we first need to evaluate where they are and then to know where they want to be, right? But there are interventions that I have put in place before now that I will tell you. For instance, we have incentive program that can help us drive performance. We introduce an incentive program for them. And then we also introduce reward and recognition for them to say that if you're able to achieve 100% of your targets, it's not part of your commission. If you're able to achieve 100% of your targets, this is what you stand to get. Don't forget, reward and recognition is part of learning and development intervention for performance improvement. In fact, we are looking forward to a time where we'll change it from learning and development to learning and improvement. So if our focus is to improve, then all we need to do is whatever can help us improve, any good strategy that can help us improve performance. It's not just about development. The end result here is performance. So how do I move my sales force from where they are to where we want them to be? Now, the first thing you're looking at is, do you have defined KPIs for them? Do they have the business priorities? Do they know where the business is going? Do they understand the business products? I'll give you, for instance, there was a time I work in a place where our sales guys are not doing so well, and then we follow them to the market. Myself and the head of sales went to the market to go and understand how they pitch about the products. We're just observing them in the market, and they are where we're observing them. And I was taking notes. So I was able to now dictate that these guys cannot sell because they don't understand the products they are selling. They don't understand the ingredients that consist the products that made the products. So what I did was to now help them design a program that will ensure that at least one person must come into the factory and stay with the production for 5 days. Learn how we produce so that you can sell well. If you don't know how, you cannot sell. Because the customers will ask them technical questions about, okay, tell me, is wheat good for the body system? What is the function of wheat? If I eat this particular biscuit, what is the function? What is the content of your biscuit? Can you explain? They cannot explain it, right? Because they are not part of the process. So I need to ensure that the sales guys are part of the process, and the part of the process of the product development. They have understanding of that, right? So you now look at motivation, and then we're also able to define the market space. The learning and development now came up with a strategy. I'm sure some of you must have heard about the Blue Ocean strategy. So we're able to take them through that strategy. And then we did a course for them on sales psychology, where I was able to define every of our sales member, their personality traits. Because if you don't understand who you are, you cannot understand the next person, the person you are selling to. So you need to know when you are selling to a choleric. You need to know when you are selling to a sanguine. When you are selling to a sanguine, you don't talk too much as a salesperson. So we're able to take them through all that processes, and that was able to improve their performance, right? And there are other interventions you can also look at, which will be determined by what you do in your organization. So Elizabeth, that has that question. What we first need to know is, what do you do? What is your business into? What is your market size? Then what are the strengths of your sales workforce? What is their knowledge base like, before we can tell that, okay, these are what and what you need to do. Next question.
Thank you for that comprehensive answer. Next question is, how do we monitor the impact of the learning program on employees and convert it to money?
Yes, there's something we call return on investment. There is a template that we use to convert that. Now, and I'll be truthful to you here. That template is just an assumption. No one has been able to get actual. It's an assumption. To say that this is what we have been able to do. Okay, let me give you, for instance, I've worked in a place where we have to reduce wastages. So if our wastages has been 70%, and then they are now calling the L&D to say that, Joseph, we need to reduce from 70% to 40%, right? So what we need to do is, how do we ensure that we put up a program intervention that will help these guys reduce wastages? Now, all we need to do is, do we know the percentage of the wastages initially? When we put up the program, can we calculate the percentage of the wastages now? Yes, we're able to do that. So we cannot push to management to say that the wastages before, when we convert in Naira, is 79 million Naira. Now, because they have reduced this to from 70% to 50%. So the 79 million naira has been reduced to this amount because of this training program or this initiative. Is that clear? And then some are not even focusing on return on investment. Some are even focusing more on return on expectation. So let's not even talk about return on investment. Let's talk about return on expectation. So what I'm saying is, as a line manager, these are my expectations from you guys. I want wastages to reduce from this percentage to this percentage. These are my expectations. And then we should be able to now put costs on it. Right? Someone that doesn't resume to work on time. If you're supposed to resume 9 a.m. and then the person resume, let's say 11 a.m. and then you now train the person on time management. So what we're saying is, can you now convert the time that person was not at work into Naira? Now compared to when you train the person and then the person now resume 8 a.m. instead of 9 a.m. and they start working from 8 a.m. Can you now convert it to Naira? They do that now. It's just like when you are doing your hiring. The time to hire, the time to fill, you're able to convert into Naira. It's the same. So okay, let's first.
Thank you. Before we go forward, I can see a lot of people shouting slide. Yes, I see you're excited about this session, but you have to promise me that everything you learn during this session and other sessions, that you apply it when you get back to work, because exactly. That's the only piece of this program.
That's when you cannot become nuisance value. What you are having now, if you cannot apply, that's what we call nuisance value. I will call it corporate ignorance. Like Gide said, we need you to apply, and we'll be happy that you have applied.
That would be our joy. To be a total waste of time going this length to organize this, and then there's no impact on your career or the organizations you serve. So you have to promise us that these things that you've learned here, you apply it. And also, please, for this session and other sessions to come, this program is running throughout the weekends in August, 3 sessions per day, Saturdays and Sundays. Please share it to your friends, to your colleagues. You know what is good is it should be shared. So we hope that this free knowledge, we are giving it freely. It won't be wasted. So thank you again. Well, let's just quickly take the rest of the questions. Okay, I think you mentioned a particular group, the L&D gang. Someone is asking, how do we join?
Okay, I'll share my WhatsApp number so you can just connect with me.
Okay, you can put that in the chat.
Give me permission to do that?
Yes, please go ahead. You can do that in the chat box.
Okay.
Okay. Next question from Amotola. The question is on needs analysis. We currently draw our needs analysis from the appraisal data. I would like to know other more strategic ways to conduct a needs analysis aside appraisal information.
I've mentioned that. Other ways which you can conduct your need analysis. I've mentioned when you're doing your review. Talent review, we show you that. When you're doing your performance appraisal, you get that. When you can set up something we call skills metrics. Skills metrics is to measure where the person is in terms of all the skills required to do well on the job. Then you evaluate and then compare to where you want the person to be. You can use skills analysis to do that, right? Then you can also do that by observation as a line manager. Observation. So I tell people that we have gone above paper need analysis, where you put up a paper and say you want to do need analysis. Where you can do consultative need analysis. This is where L&D will have to. L&D is more of a consulting role. This is where you have to go to the department to say that, can we have a time to discuss your talents? So where are we now? And where are we supposed to be? Are we achieving our objective or we are not? What tools, what process, what capabilities do we need to achieve this? And then that conversation will now lead you to training need analysis. So you now begin to ask questions about, now your need analysis can focus on team, can focus on departments, can focus on organizational. So when you're not doing, and then can focus on individual. So when you're doing each of them, you should know which one are you focusing on. If it is individual, then you can discuss with the line manager to say that, okay, this guy is not doing well. What do you think could be the problem? So let's have a discussion around it. So there are questions you ask that will tell you that, okay, this is a problem, right? And then don't be quick to say that because you know the problem, then you know the solution. Because I've seen people that will say, no, it has happened like that in an organization where I worked before. So it's the same thing I will apply now, the solution. No, that's not true. It's not the same culture. And it's not the same line manager, right? So I think I've answered that question.
Okay. This question is from Olorunfemi. He's asking, have you worked with an organization that did not value learning? What did you do?
Okay, Olorunfemi, my first response is that yes, I have worked with an organization that does not value learning. What I did was not to force learning on them. What I did was to keep improving on myself. And then I was doing freebies for my friend that work in organizations that embrace learning. I would design stuff and then I'll be willing to share with them so that my knowledge does not become obsolete. And you know, the knowledge you have not shared cannot increase. So I ensure that I position myself to keep improving so much so well that I can get myself in an organization that will value learning. And again, you may not need to stop there. You keep pushing and then help them to see value. You can give them data. You can go online and check for data of employees that embrace learning and then that they are doing well. You can check your competitors to make your arguments, to make your business case. You know, learning and development need to understand how to put up a business case. For instance, you want to sell a learning and elements to your management. You need to put up a business case. You cannot just tell them that we need a learning management system. Why? Because every organization is doing it. That's not a good reason. You need to learn how to put up a business case in writing that can convince your management that if we do this, this is what we are going to get. Every management wants to see improvement in Naira. They are not really interested in your initiative. They are interested in, would this initiative add up to our profits after improving the people? So to Amolola, what you need to do is put up a business case together and then keep pushing. And then another thing is look for, you need to understand stakeholders engagement in organization. There are people that can talk to your CEO that will listen. Sometimes I don't go directly to my HOD or my director. Sometimes I go to someone that can influence my director about something I need to put in place. So that's why you need to understand, you know, the workplace dynamics and then how you can survive, right? So when you're putting it up, ensure that you're able to put up a business case that will show them in Naira that if we do this, this is what. So don't put it to them like we need to just do training. What would be the end result of the training? Are you getting it? So that's what I have for you, Amanola.
Okay, thank you very much. One last question before we go.
I like that.
Just a moment.
Okay.
Okay, it's from Omotola again. For employees in support functions that do not bring direct revenue to the business, how do we display the ROI on training that impacts the business bottom line? How do we get the data we will use to present a cost benefit analysis that will encourage management to invest in training them? Thank you very much.
Okay, now you are basically right. I'll give you, for instance, is HR selling anything? Is HR selling anything? We don't sell. right? But do we generate revenue? We are part of, and that's what we call supply chain. We are part of the supply chain that generates revenue for the business. If I hire the wrong person for the business, then the business will not make good revenue, right? So all I need to project is to say that I've been able to increase our hypos from 5% to 10%, and then that I've been able to reduce attrition rates from what percentage to what percentage. Our retention rate has increased, so which means that we are unable to pay money on recruitments anymore. So the money we are not, and again, instead of hiring a vendor to recruit for us, and then we pay that vendor millions for recruitment every year, then I will set up a team that will teach them on how to hunt for people. And then the moment we are able to do that, I put a cost on every employee, every new hire. And then that is what I am going to add up to say that we have supported the business in achieving this by saving costs. HR can save costs without selling. It's part of it. So when you deduct that from organizational expenses, that's what at the end, when an organization is coming to say that this is our profit and loss account, they are also deducting expenses to achieve at revenue, right? So if they are deducting expenses and then HR is able to help them to cut costs and reduce expense, then that means that we are adding up value to them. So it does not mean that we need to sell to be able to convince management that we are part of the people generating the revenue. If I hire you the wrong person, then you will fail as an organization. If I put the wrong process, wrong policy in place, you will fail as an organization. If I don't put the right employee engagement strategy in place, then the people will not be motivated to sell and bring money into the business, right? So these are areas we can look at without saying that we want to sell.
Great. Thank you. Fantastic. It's been nice having you all here. Thank you, Wale, again, for spending 2 hours of your time with us on this session. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add before we just round it up.
Okay. Basically, I just feel that we appreciate everyone for participating in the events, and then we look forward to you getting engaged with Andalon. There are many programs. If you have not done any certifications like SPHR, tHRive, and the rest, please sign up for it. We have loads of facilitators that can help you win and do well in your exam. You know, there's nothing as good as personal improvement. I tell people that your personal growth, your career growth is your responsibility. Don't ever outsource your career success to any organization by saying that if they cannot train you, you cannot grow. That is the worst thing you can do to yourself. Take your personal success as your personal responsibility. And again, I'll tell you, it is not important to know. It is more important to do than to know. Don't forget that part. I wish you guys success in all your career endeavors. And when we see tomorrow, trust me, it's going to be joyful and fruitful. Thank you for connecting. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, Oluwole Joseph, and I look forward to connecting with you too. Thank you, Jide.
Thank you very much. It's great having you. Thank you everyone for joining. We've gone over our 2-hour mark, but I'm sure it was fruitful and very valuable. Thank you all for joining. The next session is starting by 3 p.m. We're going to be looking at managing employee performance in the new normal. The speaker is Oladokun Solanke. It promised to be another engaging and exciting session. So if you can, please join. If you have friends that might want to participate, please share the link with them, and we'll meet again in about an hour time. Thank you all once again. See you by 3.